The UK housing market for June 2022. Will we see a property slump? Will we see an ever increasing rise to property prices? Well, go check out this video as I release those details. Hi everyone, my name is Simon Misiewicz from Optimised Accountants. In this video, we're going to be talking about the housing update and where we are right now. And before we kick off, I want to just share you this graph here, which is the UK interest rates. It's now at 0.75%. And if we hear the news across the Atlantic in the United States, we know that the interest rates are going to be increasing a few times. Not a couple of times, not once, a few times in the remaining part of 2022. If that's the case, well, then will Bank of England follow? It is potentially the case. And what I would say is that house prices, you can see, are increasing along this line. There's no doubt about that. House prices are going up. But their average annual salary per annum is also going up. Now, the one thing I want to share with you is just something I've always been keen to understand is house prices to wages. You know, how many times is a house average price compared to average salary? And that's really important to know, because that would say, well, is house prices too much? Is it pushing out affordability? And if you look at this graph is really interesting, because it says in March 2015, the average house price was 9 times more than the average person's salary. Okay, so that's the first indicator, just by using the data from the Office of National Statistics. Okay. Now, using that same data, if we look all the way to March 2022, it's now 11 times, which means that the house prices is outstripping salaries and wages quite considerably and will continue to do so. Why do I think that's the case? Well, we have a pound value that you can now get lots more money from American dollars, Hong Kong dollars. If you're euro, you can get a lot more pounds. So actual fact, we're not only competing against the people that live in the UK earning money to buy property, we're also competing against the wealthy Hong Kongers that are coming to the United Kingdom on their B&O visa. And I do an awful lot of work with Hong Kongers looking to move to the United Kingdom. And I often say to them, look, the currency exchange for you is far better, stronger. You may as well get into this property sector now, even though prices are increasing. UK House Price Index March 2022. I'm recording this in June. The fact that they haven't released it yet, it's a next release is 22nd of June, so it won't be too far away. But what I want to share with you is the UK house price average increased by 9.8% over the year to March 22, down from 11.3% in February 2022. London continues to be the region with the lowest annual growth at 4.8%. Now, I've got to be honest with you. If you think about being an investor, you think, well, 4.8%, so that's not a great deal. Or what interest rates do you get in a bank, or bonds, or gilts? UK house prices, because of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on both the number of supply of housing transactions, we might see larger revisions to the published UK price index. So these, albeit they are what they call final numbers, they are already saying that's going to be amended. I wouldn't worry too much about that necessarily, because we'll see that happen in April and May. The latter half of 2020 saw the UK's average house price growth accelerating. This trend continued in 2021, and house price growth has remained strong since the start of 2022. Unless we go into a recession, unless people start fearing for a lot of change, unless we have landlords that just decide to give up altogether. I know there's a lot of landlords selling up, but that's because of legislation and taxation. But there are going to be professionals that are hard stead and will want to continue because they can see the opportunities. It's going to be harder work because of all the legislation, but you still get a better return on your money than you do on a bond and gilt. It might just take some more of your time, and that's where you've got to exchange time for money, even as a landlord. On on 8th of March, 8th of July 2020, changes to the tax paid on property purchases were announced with immediate effect in England and Northern Ireland. So straight away, we're thinking, well, okay, we have influence over taxation. Stamp duty land tax, of course, was reduced. The stamp duty land tax holiday, if you recall that one, meant that there's a lot more people buying property. Okay, that was obvious. As the tax breaks were originally due to conclude at the end of March 2021, it is likely that the March average house price were slightly inflated as buyers rushed to ensure their house purchase was scheduled to complete ahead of this deadline. What's interesting thing for me, though, is that despite the stamp duty land tax holiday concluding, are we still seeing an increase of house prices? Yes, we are. So that's really an interesting thing. So even though the tax driver that was pushing up what they call the inflation of house pricing, house prices still continue to increase. So I wouldn't getting too excited whether house prices are going to fall or not. So house prices per region. This is really interesting. So if you are a property investor, UK landlord, wanting to buy property, wanting to know where should you go, this is a great way of doing it. Because you might want to look at these regions. Where I'm living, East Midlands, wow, look at that, 12.4%, 12-month percentage increase. So if people are wanting to look at where do I get the best capital growth, some people are looking for return on investment, some people are looking for capital growth. I know that I'm not necessarily needing the rental income, so I'm going to be more on the side now of capital growth and appreciation for the long term, so that eventually I will sell that property and gain on the increased value. But if you look at those kind of areas, interestingly enough, I've always thought that the north would be the ones pushing up house prices, but actually there's quite a few other areas in the southwest still beating the northern areas, which I'm quite surprised about, given the affordability of properties in the northern areas, northwest, northeast, Yorkshire and Humber. They're quite low. Only London is less. So, if you're looking at properties, maybe looking at the south is still a good way if you're looking for capital appreciation. If you're looking for return investment, the northern areas are always going to be better because their house prices are cheaper. Hopefully that video was useful for you, but please do not stop there. There are plenty of videos that I know that will help you build your wealth whilst reducing your tax liability. And in this video, well, this is the one I think you should be watching right now. Research and to make an informed decision rather than just watching the media.